Hello everyone, welcome back to yet another political episode. So today we make this video to recognize and officially project that Charlie Kirk's killer has been caught. I have already announced that video in the previous video. Announced the news in the previous video. We reviewed Kash Patel's coverage. But today I want to do a separate video to actually understand who this guy is, because there has been a lot of misinformation, and we know the misinformation is intentional because Democrats are safe-facing, right? They know that they blew it in the last 3 weeks with an Annunciation Catholic Church school shooting, along with the heinous murder of a Ukrainian refugee in Charlotte, and now this. The left-wing political violence is in full swing. And we're going to talk about who this guy is. We're going to actually talk about what his motives are, because there are people like Harry Sisson that suggest that we don't know who what his motive was. And then the truth is, couldn't be more clear. We do know the motive. But first, we got to address the conspiracy theories that this guy is a right-wing conservative, because that is false, and it's easily debunkable. So if we can take a look at videos of MSNBC suggesting that they go ahead and play the evidence that this guy is a radical lunatic, leftist, but they suggest anyway, he still must be pro-Trump, though. This is how they go. So let's go and react to leftists safe-facing. As we
so quickly here this morning, we're learning as well from our own reporting that there's no indication of a prior criminal record. This is according to searches of state national public records associated with the person, Tyler Robinson, and his date of birth. One of the most striking details that we learned from this press conference were, again, about those bullet casings and the inscriptions, "Hey, fascist," the words "Bella Ciao," the words, "If you read this, you are gay." What do you see as the significance or what the message is that he's trying to communicate here?
I'm going to pause again, because I do think that this girl is going to go on some rambling. She's going to downplay this, but I want to point out the pretty obvious. This lady's leaving a lot of stuff out. The guy didn't just say, "Hey, fascist." He said, "Hey, fascist, catch." Now, you would be like, that's just a small detail. Well, it's indications that, the liberal media is clearly trying to make this guy look good, because obviously we hear people say fascist, "Hey, fascist," blah, 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 blah. It's so normalized in left-wing culture. You see it in protests, street protests. This is what MSNBC is trying to make it look like. It's just sort of a street protester. But when you suddenly put the word "catch," okay, suggesting that, trying to catch the bullet, which unfortunately, as we know, you can't catch a bullet. Okay, that's impossible. But it's a mockery of the atrocity that this idiot, this Marxist, is trying to do. And the fact that MSNBC will not put that in there shows that tells us that they really do not want to talk about the story. They know that this story is not fitting the narrative. Even suggesting, "Hey, fascist," is bad enough. But, they're trying to save face as much as they can. A lot of people say, that's not really a big deal. Hey, catch. Hey, fascist, catch. Okay. Well, why don't they put that in there then? Why don't they put the word "catch" in there? Just the one word. It's a 5-letter word, I want to believe. Why can't you put it in there? Because it makes the shooter look evil, more evil than he actually is. And that's what the MSNBC, and we know he's pure evil, but MSNBC wants to make him less evil than what the truth actually is. And that is why they are doing small, of course, half sentences for this guy. But we're going to see this deranged lunatic suggest that, hey, we have all these Marxist language on the brief casings, but he still must be a Trump Republican. Just because, Trump supporters commit violence all the time, even though there's no real evidence of ever one, other than January 6th, as far as I know, one time one hour, one rare case scenario of that actually happening. So let's go ahead and take a look at this blonde brat to suggest otherwise. Okay. I did not deserve that. I hate ads. Okay, here we go. What the heck? Oh, here we go.
Knowing what those words are. Really, I would need to actually see these words in the way that they are on the bullet casings in the gun to make a proper interpretation. But just knowing what those words are, I'm kind of overwhelmed with how immature it all sounds, and that there is no really chronic theme. I think Brandy really nailed it. You have to make of it what you want, because, you know, it's like sees bulges. If you're reading this, you're gay. You know, catch this fascist, or hey, fascist, catch. It's like the...
Okay, at least I'll give her credit, but she's actually using the word catch. But you know, there's so much to debunk when it comes to this lady.
Child. And
give some major news.
Because he is a immature child, lady. I don't know what your name is. I want to address you by name. She's a chronologist, I want to believe. Yeah, Casey Jordan. Yes, Casey Jordan, I have news for you. This is a child. Why do you think this is so childish? Then it must not be real. Let's be honest. What he did was a childish move. I'm telling you right now. This lady suggesting, "Oh, we don't really have any evidence on the motive." Blah 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 blah. We don't really. I want to see the briefcase. Blah blah blah. Well, here's the funny thing about that. When this lady, 100%, no doubt about it, believes that Trump raped Eugene Carroll and raped a bunch of women. There's actually zero proof and evidence. And I'm not suggesting she is that, but I'm just like looking at this lady and I'm like saying, you're probably like that person. Let's be honest. You have to be, in order to be on MSNBC, you got to think that Trump is a racist. Trump is a sexist, and he is a rapist in order to be on MSNBC. So let's be quite honest. A lot of these people think this. Oh, well, we want to see the briefcase on this, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, we don't want to see the evidence and proof about Trump being a rapist. So out of the sudden, now they want to see the evidence. They want to see the proof. Well, they never wanted to see the proof when it came to Trump. You just see how that works, doesn't it, guys? So this is the woke criminologist who is should be fired because she's an activist, not a criminologist. Let's go ahead and talk to Harry Sisson. Not talk to Harry Sisson, but react to Harry Sisson, who is going to come up with a Blue Anon conspiracy theory about Trump, of this kid wearing a Trump costume in 2017, which I have tons of questions about. But let's go ahead and react to his little Instagram post.
Twitter shows him wearing a Trump costume in 2017. This image is going incredibly viral on social media right now, and it's a post from 2017. It reads, "Happy Halloween. So weird not trick-or-treating with the boys this year. Off they go. Hashtag Trump costume." And right there is the alleged suspect, Tyler Robinson. If you zoom in, you can see that his Halloween costume that year is a Trump costume. Now, this comes after days of people on the right speculating that the shooter must be this crazy liberal with all of these insane ideologies, but the alleged shooter is wearing a Trump costume reportedly back in 2017. So again, I'm not here to establish a motive. We have no idea why this guy allegedly did what he did. We'll learn in the next days.
Okay, yeah. Harry Sisson is safe-facing. He is a Democrat Party paid activist. We know what he's doing. Even Harry Sisson knows because he went through this. Let's be honest. Harry Sisson was a different person compared to what he is right now when he was growing up. Now, let's be honest. 2017, Harry, you were like 10, 12. I was 12 in 2017. You're like a year older than me. You were 13. Let's be honest. Yeah, this guy was an activist at 13. I think probably. But let's be honest. This guy definitely wasn't in politics in 2012, and rightfully so. He should really live his life and enjoy his childhood. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that, look, this guy, looks pretty old, but he is a minor. He is then again, I would assume he's entering in his mid-teens, looks like. Now, when you are an adult, like Tyler Robinson is right now, your political views change. When you are a minor under a roof, under a strong Christian household, of course you're going to be pro-Trump. In fact, best believe this kid at 10 years old, whoever, I don't even know, he was probably very excited for Mitt Romney, even though I could care less about 2012, because actually I was living my life. I was not obsessed with politics whatsoever. But this kid, he was probably I'm assuming he's Mormon, and his family's Mormon, and they were very excited about Mitt Romney. I take he was excited about Mitt Romney. I take that they really, really, really hated Obama. This kid hated Obama because, let's be honest, his parents told him to hate Obama. I don't think his parents would ever say hate Obama. But let's be honest, this kid doesn't like Obama because his parents don't like Obama. Now, it's gradually normal. When you grow up, you start to form your own political beliefs. Okay? And the truth is, a lot of these people, a lot of these shooters, these Marxist shooters, members of Antifa used to be Republicans. These are fallen Republicans in Antifa. And mostly because they grew up in conservative families. They grew up in religious families. And they just are tired of being, not justified in any way, but they think they're being controlled by their parents, and they think, and then they go to college, they go to university, they learn all this stuff, and they turn to their parents and they say, hey, you should believe in this, and they say no, and then they go crazy. Oh, wait, hang on. You don't believe in social justice? You're a bad person. So best believe this kid, being the only liberal in his family, was going crazy over his Trump-supporting family. Now, let's be honest. When it comes to this kid, I want to specifically address like 3 weeks ago, we're still talking about the Annunciation shooter. Annunciation shooter, Robert Westman. A lot of people don't know this, but he was very religious. He was very religious. In fact, he was an altar server at St. Agnes Catholic Church in St. Paul. He was a devoted altar server. And his parents were very, very religious. Now, does this make Robert Westman a right-winger? No, because Robert Westman grew up and went to college, participated in the BLM riots and everything. He grew up, his brain developed, he started to become a lunatic, he followed these social media posts. But when you're a child, you're innocent. When you're a child, you take your parents' words. So this kid, he generally looks like someone that can form his own opinions, to Harry's credit. But not everyone usually abides by, people will form their own opinions very slowly. So yeah, and here's the other thing that Harry's not purposely downplaying. We don't know why he's holding that costume. He could be wearing the costume to mock Donald Trump. Have you ever considered that? Perhaps he's already Trump deranged and he's wearing the costume to mock Trump. But then again, I have questions about that also, because I don't think his parents would promote that type of hate, that type of vitriol. So I'm but then again, I mean, this kid's trick-or-treating. If this kid is 17 years old, and let's be honest, he's college age, he's like my age. I was 12 in 2017. He's probably 14 years old. This is probably his last year trick-or-treating. This kid's still trick-or-treating, which means, honestly, this kid really, really, really let's just be honest, living his life like a child. And just like a child, he's going to listen to his parents when they tell him stuff. So yes, obviously, Harry and the squad, this is going viral. It's also going viral on the right. And I think most people will take this and say, you know what? And most people understand. Hey, guess what? The people that are promoting this are from Antifa. They're trying to save face, but they went through this. Most Antifa members, they were former Republicans. Not really Republicans, but they were growing up under Republican households. And, they go to college to get radicalized, and they become extremists. So it's generally not true that these college kids, they are otherwise far-left liberals, always liberals. A lot of these far-left liberals were Republicans. And they became far-left liberals in rebellion of the norms in their family and the rules of their family. They become hormonal teenagers that just want to rebel. And while they're doing that, they get radicalized. So in this case scenario, I do believe, from the bottom of my heart, he's not really trolling Trump. I do believe he once loved Trump. Of course, I think the killer will have to go up and do his own testimony. But I'm thinking Harry is right, half right, that yes, he probably wore that Trump costume in sincerity. But what Harry is purposely leaving out is that and this kid's probably 13. Looks like Harry's age, let's be honest. 13 at least. Yeah, even at 13, your brain's not fully developed yet where you feel comfortable leaving your family's beliefs to form your own beliefs. That can happen, but sometimes that can be slow. Sometimes that could be slow. I know my beliefs are very different compared to my family's. I'm more conservative compared to my family members. More further to the right compared to my family members. I would imagine was like 2017, I was more aligned with their values, more center right. But then, I did my research and I said, you know what? I'm going to go further to the right on more issues. That's normal. In this kid's scenario, he went to the left. And Harry's acting like this is not normal. It is normal. Because the Antifists will never admit it, but they were Republicans. A lot of them were Republicans. Robin Westman, devout Roman Catholic. I heard he was admired by the congregation as being the most cutest altar boy in the parish. And he went from being a cute, adorable altar boy to now a demonic monster that took the life of 2 innocent kids at a Catholic school shooting. So, in case of you are wondering, Robert Westman is Catholic, but he left. He abandoned the faith. So, really, he's not Catholic. He grew up Catholic. That's not the same thing as being Catholic. But I do think that, Robert Westman is an example of a far-left lunatic who was conservative, who you could say was a part of the ultra-right. Grew up in an ultra-right anti-abortion family. And it's usually in these devout Christian families, it's usually where you see these Antifa people rise from. They usually come from those devout Christian families, Catholic families included, because obviously their hatred towards Catholics comes from because they were Catholics. They saw the anti-abortion activism. They saw their opposition to same-sex marriage, which is pretty rare these days, along with IVF and contraceptions. And of course, divorce. They are very against divorce. and they see them as fascists. So obviously, having lived the experience as a Catholic, forming their own opinions at a university, they leave and they join this cult called Antifa. So this is quite common sense. I know I spent a long time on this, because honestly, this is getting a lot of misinformation. And really, I don't care if you're holding a Trump costume. We don't know the context of what you're holding the Trump costume for, but I'm 100% certain he wore it with honor and dignity. But went on his own ways. I have one last story, because I do think it is important. Growing up in 2017, I was very into communist music. I was not a communist because I did not know what I was doing. But I know and still know a lot of the former communist songs. But then my parents found out I was listening to these communist music, and they confronted me. I was not aware that the communists were anti-God, anti-Christianity, anti-Catholicism, anti-faith. I generally looked at the communist foes. I just said, hey, look, I like this. I mean, giving stuff to the poor and giving stuff to the well. I'm like, but I didn't realize this, but I was slowly going more to the left. Slowly. And it just came from music. My parents, I'm very thankful they did this. They intervened. They stopped me. Hey, no. This is evil. And it's because of my parents' advocacy is where I am right now. Because I'm looking at my kids my age, and I'm saying they're not so lucky. I was very lucky. I was stopped in time. So, and I was 12, 13. But then again, I was willing to listen to my parents. Because, I viewed my parents with more respect. Because I saw them as a very leading figure. And you generally view that when you're a little kid. You fear the wrath of your parents. And that gradually goes away when you get older. That's just normal. But I hope we all respect our parents, as the Ten Commandments has always insisted. But I've spent a very long time on this topic, as much as I wanted to. But let's go ahead and finish.
Robinson. If you zoom in, you can see this wearing a Trump costume reportedly back in 2017. So again, I'm not here to establish a motive. We have no idea why this guy allegedly did what he did. We'll learn in the next days, weeks.
Charlie Kirk's killer, Tyler Robinson, he's not black. He's not trans. He's not Muslim. He's not an immigrant. He is not a Democrat. Meet Charlie Kirk's assassin, Tyler Robinson. He is a white, Christian, conservative, Republican male with a gun again. And statistically, when all of this was going on, when Fox News started declaring war, when Jesse Waters and Laura Ingraham, which recklessly tried to rile up their base that somehow the left was in charge of this, statistically, I knew that this was probably a white male, as all shooters are. And this seems to be MAGA-grown terrorism. MAGA is a culture that
This is called safe face right here. She's an ultra culper. Yeah, I mean, if the call, the demand for MAGA violence is much lower, it's much higher, actually, pardon me, than the supply. That's just the fact. So that's why you got to take things out of context. Even though the facts are blatantly in your face, now you're just lying to your audience. She knows this because the demand for MAGA violence is high than the supply. So, and the supply is pretty low, by the way. Very low. Because, let's be honest, MAGA, has there been any right-wing violence after this? No. What I've seen in the last couple days after this shooting, this killing of Charlie Kirk, respectful vigils around the world. Respectful vigils. Not even protests, just vigils, silence, prayer. Interesting. And this lady suggests that oh, just because you're white, just because you're not a Muslim, you're not black, and you're not an immigrant, and you're not a Democrat, you must be a Trump. I'm not sure if this guy is a registered Democrat or not. We know he's a leftist. Even the leftist Antifa will say to your face, we know Kyle Kulinski said to our faces that the Democratic Party is center right. Can you believe it? I can't imagine this. What type of world, what type of crack are you smoking, Kyle Kulinski? But you got a lady that's just as a lunatic, just as much of a lunatic, than Kulinski. She knows that he's on his side. So, we gotta move on. But this is obviously examples. Now, I want to talk about what was on the briefcase, because what was found on the briefcase is telling. And it tells you everything you need to know. This guy's a left-winger. I am in a conflict because I'm not sure. Oh, yes. Let's see what AP has to say. AP better became more political, opposed the activists' views. So there was a lot said on there. And the first one I want to talk about is the word Bella Ciao, okay? And listening to those communist music growing up, I knew the song Bella Ciao, okay? In fact, having listened it to for so long, I could recite it word for word in the Italian dialect. But I'm not going to do that. I will play it for you because it's not copyright. In fact, I'll tell you a bit about the song, because the song is not actually originated as a left-wing song. This is what the left will tell you. It's not a left-wing song! They're right, actually. It's not a left-wing song. But that doesn't mean it's not a left-wing song, because it became a left-wing song. Context, though. This song was a song used during the Italian Civil War in efforts by Italian partisans to overthrow Benito Mussolini and the Nazis that were occupying Italy during the 1943. The song is about an Italian father who joined the Italian partisans to overthrow the government. This is a song basically saying goodbye to his wife, okay? Goodbye to his wife, and asking for prayers. That sounds like a Christian song. Well, the song later became integrated during the Cold War as a battle cry for resistance and violence. The song was integrated into North Korean culture. The CCP began to adopt it. The Soviet Union, of course, adopted it. Cuba adopted it. And today, it's a prominent song, a battle cry of leftism and violence across the world. So this is the general facts. And I'm going to go ahead and play the video. It's not copyright. I understand that why Greg Foreman didn't play it. He didn't play it because it was obviously... It's not copyright, but he is obviously a monetized individual. He wants to make sure that, none of his copyright videos, he has to take that more seriously, and I understand he wants to be safe. But obviously, we're going to go ahead and react to Bella Ciao. And because this is from a video, I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm just going to go ahead and play the main lyrics, and I'll read it in one line. This is the first lyrics. This morning, I woke up. Oh, goodbye, beautiful. Oh, goodbye, beautiful. I think you guys can read the lyrics.
Bella ciao, bella ciao, bella
and I'll stop there because honestly, yeah, there's nothing really sickening about the song because it's nothing really called for violence, unlike the pro-Palestine songs that literally incite violence. But this actually became a battle cry for Marxism. And it's extremely popular, and especially in Italian culture, but also in the Soviet Union. You'll see this is the Soviet version of the song.
Stamattina mi sono alzato, oh bella ciao, bella ciao, ciao, ciao. Stamattina mi sono alzato, io ho trovato l'invasor.
Yeah, and that's also that. I don't want to continue to be consumed by Bella Ciao. I think it's a disgusting song. It used to be in somewhat of a sane song. America even embraced it, but then it became. Here's Giorgia Meloni's reaction to Bella Ciao. This is pretty, like, after she was elected, bunch of leftists protested using Bella Ciao.
Dunque, buongiorno a tutti, grazie. Ringrazio.
So yeah, this is obviously Bella Ciao. And let's be honest, let's be real right now. Let a right winger run around saying, crying for the rise of Marxists to join the resistance? No. Would a Trump supporter do that? No. I think we know that. Let's talk about another thing. We also have, specifically, I'm talking about Hey Fascist Catch. We already talked about that, so I'm not going to talk much about it. And this is something I want to talk about. If you read this, you're gay. All right? This is what leftists are running with. Because they suggest, oh, Democrats! Leftists would never say something like that! Well, if you put context into this guy is clearly taunting law enforcement. Because there's a reason why he left the gun. And we were all asking what kind of idiot would do that. Well, this guy thought it would be very funny to mock the law enforcement. Because in his mind, law enforcement are right-wingers. Right-wingers hate gays. So he thinks that if you read this, you are gay. Like it's some sort of insult. The left thinks, oh, he's being homophobic. No. If you really put context into this, you understand why he left the weapon in the first place, so they can read this message. But this is what people like Harry Sisson, MSNBC, they're running around saying, oh, we don't know the motive because he said this homophobic thing. And again, his intention was to harass, to taunt law enforcement. He also referenced furries, pop culture memes, along with shooting memes, referencing furries, etc. This doesn't sound like a right winger to me. I mean, furries are the most weirdest people on the planet. We're talking about conservatives. You got people running around looking like this. Let's see. Interesting. So, I'm kind of interested what Like, I mean, there's some sort of mythology in there, and this is even more disturbing. So I do think furries is a demonic cult. And this isn't a thing to laugh about, obviously. But looking and doing my research on this, I'm looking at these paintings. I'm seeing knives. People attacking. Now, honestly, this could be something else. There we go. That could be something else. But yeah, I still think furries are pretty demonic, though. Let's be quite honest with you. I mean, it's literally denying the dignity of the human being that God made you to be. You're not an animal. Now, it's one thing to pretend you're an animal for a game or something. But to live your entire life like an animal, that's literally disrespecting what God made you to be, a human being. You're a human being, and to treat yourself like an animal is an insult to God's creation. But yeah, I mean, does this look like Trump supporters, folks? Does this look like a Trump supporter flying his gay pride flag? Hilarious. This is what people are suggesting. Yeah. Does the furry community have a Nazi problem? Says the Rolling Stone. Okay, no. I mean, who knows? They could. I mean, but if the Rolling Stone suggests they're right-wing, hilarious. Because, let's be honest, pro-Palestine is Nazism, right? I mean, if Hitler were resurrected, he would 100% join the Free Palestine movement. The Free Palestine movement might throw him out, but he'll try to get back in. He hates the Jews. And he actually advocated for an independent state of Palestine. He was one of the vocal advocates. But anyway, this was Charlie Kirk's killer, Tyler Robinson. We talked a lot about the shooter, and Trump had come out and talked about this. Now, there's a very good possibility that this man will be executed on death row. The federal government's already in agreement that this will happen, and not to mention Utah is a death penalty state. Here's my thoughts on this. I've made it clear I'm a very nuanced, very cautious supporter of the death penalty. I do think that every single execution must be held prudently and humanely. But I do believe that, we got to make this public, like Greg Foreman said, because, as much, if we're doing this, and it's not up for me to decide, but if we're doing this, and if they decide to do it with firing squad, part of me thinks it should be. Part of it says no, because is this a violation of human dignity? But I do think, this is a call to this is what we are seeing the past couple of years, with the past year with the healthcare CEO, Mr. Luigi, and his a murder and his atrocity. We gotta put deterrence. We gotta say, hey, look at do you want to end up like Tyler Robinson? Cut it out. This is and honestly, I think we need to record it to send to these people. Should we televise it? I think Greg Foreman's going a little bit too far, being quite honest with you. Because we're talking about little kids. We're talking about women. It's already bad enough we have the Charlie Kirk video going viral. And I want that taken down. I think it's a huge disrespect to the family of Erica Kirk and people that love him. Love Charlie Kirk. On top of that, we should continue to traumatize people with a assassination video. But I think it should be recorded for groups and it should be held on to law enforcement so we can show what these people, these convicted felons, these convicted murderers, rapists, what it looks like. We should try to scare them. Okay? Part of these people, I heard, want to be shot. They think it's funny. That's the mental illness. But regardless, we need to push an incentive. So part of me is yes, when it comes to executing, specifically with firing squad, we need to record it, but we should not make it public. That's what me and Mr. Foreman disagree on. He thinks it should be public, and I don't think it should be public. I think it should be recorded, but it should not be public for the world to see. I think it should be held on, because there's something called glorifying. And I don't think death penalty should never be glorified. I think the death penalty needs to be used, and we should be, the atmosphere and the attitude must be in a disappointment, a moment of disappointment and grief. We should let the person know, hey, look, we're sad you're being executed, but you're a failure. You are being executed because you're a failure. You lost. You could have done better. That's what the death penalty needs to be used for. Not to celebrate, and we're not leftists. We don't celebrate people's deaths. That's what the left does. So I won't be celebrating if Tyler Robinson is executed. Instead, I'll be like, hey, look, you know what? You could have got yourself a degree at a university. You could have gotten yourself a good career. Could have become a businessman or something. You could have been a huge left-wing activist like Charlie Kirk. Instead, you decided to kill someone. We should look at that in that manner. But anyway, I am very happy to hear the killer is caught. The death penalty is not my favorite subject to talk about. And even when talking about it, I am encourage conservatives to really, 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 really be cautious. Because if you're really pro-life and support life, then you will, I'm not saying be against the death penalty. I'm saying you should use the death penalty as a just weapon to fight against atrocity and crime, as a deterrence. That is the right way to use it. Use it to save lives, not kill lives. So anyway, thank you all for watching this video. I'll see you all in the next political episode.